In section 8.5, we're looking at annuities, methods of saving, and investments. Money is often invested in small amounts at periodic intervals. For example, to save for retirement, you might decide to place $1,000 into an individual retirement account or an IRA at the end of each year until you retire. An annuity is a sequence of equal payments made at equal time periods. An IRA is an example of an annuity. The value of an annuity is the sum of all deposits plus all interest paid. So let's say that you deposit $1,000 into a savings plan at the end of each year for 3 years. The interest rate is 8% per year compounded annually. We want to find the value of the annuity after 3 years. Well, during the first year, the only thing you're doing is you're depositing the $1,000. You have not earned any interest because you're depositing it at the end of the year. So the only thing you're going to have is your $1,000. At the end of year 2, you now have earned 8% interest on that $1,000 that you put into your account the year prior. So we have our 8% or 0.08 of our $1,000 plus the $1,000 that was already in the account, and I'm now adding in another $1,000. So just to clarify, the first 2 terms is just going to give me the interest added on to the $1,000 I already had in the account, and then I'm adding on another $1,000 because I deposit $1,000 at the end of each year for 3 years. So let's go ahead and simplify this a little bit. We have 80 plus 1,000 plus 1,000, which gives me a total of $2,080 in my account. So in year 3, we're going to get 8% interest on that $2,080 that I have in the account. Plus, I still have my $2,080 in the account. And I'm going to add another $1,000 into the account. So we have $166.40 plus my $2,080 plus my $1,000, which is going to give me a grand total of $3,246.40. And so that's how much I'm going to have at the end of 3 years with my annuity of 8% compounded annually. And now we want to find the interest. How much did I make just by having the money in the account? I didn't actually deposit this money. It was just kind of bonus money. So we take our final amount, which was our $3,246.40, and we're going to subtract off all of the deposits that we made. Well, we made 3 deposits of $1,000. At the end of each year, we put in $1,000 of our own money. So this is going to be minus 3 times my $1,000 deposits. So we end up with $3,246.40 minus $3,000. And so from my interest, I made $246.40. To find the value of an annuity, where interest is compounded once a year, we'll use the formula A equals P times 1 plus R raised to the T minus 1 all over R. And so P is the deposits made at the end of each year that pays our annual interest rate R, compounded once a year. So suppose that when you are 35, you decide to save for retirement by depositing $1,000 into an IRA at the end of each year for 30 years. You can count on an interest rate of 10% per year compounded annually. We want to make sure we round our answers to the nearest dollar. How much will you have from the IRA after 30 years? So let's write down what we have. Our P is $1,000 because that's what we deposit into the account at the end of each year. My rate is 10%, or we can write 0.10, and my time is 30. So plugging into our formula, A equals P times 1 plus R raised to the T minus 1 all over R. We have A equals 1,000 times 1 plus 0.10 raised to the 30 minus 1 all over 0.10. So making sure we abide by order of operations, we're going to add in our parentheses first. So we have 1.10 raised to the 30th minus 1 all over 0.10. The next thing we can do is raise it to the 30th. We end up getting 17.44940,227 minus 1 all over 0.10. Almost there. We're going to then subtract 1. So we get 1,000 times 16.44940,227 all over 0.10. We can now multiply the top part together. And we get 16,449.40227 and we're dividing that by 0.10, which ends up giving me $164,494. Make sure you round to the nearest dollar. Now we want to find the interest. So like before, We take our total that we found in the previous step, which was our $164,494, and we subtract off the amount of deposits. Well, we deposited $1,000 for 30 years. So we have 30 times our $1,000. So we have $164,494 minus our 30,000, which gives me a total of $134,494 that was made solely from interest. Now, if this annuity is compounded n times per year, the formula gets a little bit more complicated. If P is the deposit made at the end of each year for an annuity that pays an annual interest rate R, compounded n times per year, then we can figure it out using A equals P times 1 plus R over N raised to the NT minus 1 all over R over N. So at age 25, to save for retirement, you decide to deposit $200 at the end of each month into an IRA that pays 7.5% compounded monthly. Round answers to the nearest dollar. How much will you have in the IRA when you retire at age 65? So let's go ahead and write down our variables. Our P is our $200 a month. Our rate is 7.5% or 0.075. Our N is 12 because it's compounded monthly. And my T, if we're doing this from 65 to 25, our T is going to be 40 years. So let's go ahead and plug this into our super complicated formula. We end up having A equals 200 times 1 plus 0.05 over 12 raised to the 12 times 40 minus 1 and this whole thing is divided by 0.075 over 12. Now, having a good calculator here, like a scientific or graphing calculator, is going to help you out immensely. So I am just going to assume that you know how to simplify this because it looks very similar to the ones that we have done before. And so our A in this case is going to become $604,764. And so again, we want to go ahead and find the interest. So taking our amount that we just found, our $604,764, we need to subtract off all of the deposits that I made. So I made a deposit of $200 every month for a year, so times 12, but I did that for 40 years. So times 40. So we have 604,764 minus 96,000, which gives me a grand total of $508,764 of interest. So I can also plan for the future with an annuity. So what regular payments are needed to achieve a financial goal? The deposit P that must be made at the end of each compounding period into an annuity that pays an annual interest rate R, compounded n times per year, in order to achieve a value of $8 after t years, is given by P equals A times R over n divided by 1 plus R over n raised to the nt minus 1. When computing regular payments needed to achieve a financial goal, we round the deposit made at the end of each compounding period up. The reason why we do this is so that you won't fall slightly short of being able to meet future goals. In this section, we will round annuity payments up to the nearest dollar. Suppose that once you complete your college education and begin working, you would like to save $20,000 over 5 years to use as a down payment for a home. You anticipate making regular end-of-month deposits in an annuity that pays 6% compounded monthly. How much should you deposit each month? Round up to the nearest dollar. So let's go ahead and pull out our letters and numbers. The goal is to save $20,000 over 5 years. So A is $20,000. My rate is 6%. My N is 12 because it's compounded monthly. And my time is 5. So the goal is looking for P. So using our formula, we can plug in our values. We have $20,000 times 0.06 over 12. And this whole thing is divided by 1 plus 0.06 over 12. Raised to the 12 times 5 minus 1. So again, plugging this into your calculator and rounding this up to the nearest dollar is going to give me $287. So I would need to deposit $287 at the end of each month to reach that goal of $20,000 over my 5 years. How much of the $20,000 down payment comes from deposits and how much comes from interest? Well, let's just see how much I would be depositing. If I deposit $287 every month, so times 12 for 5 years, I would be depositing $17,220. And so to figure out the interest, we know that the goal is to have $20,000, and I am depositing $17,220 of it. So my interest is $2,780. When you deposit money into a bank account, you are making a cash investment. Because bank accounts up to $250,000 are insured by the federal government, there is no risk of losing the principal you've invested. The account's interest rate guarantees a certain percent increase in your investment called its return. All investments involve a trade-off between risk and return. The different types of bank accounts carry little or no risk, so investors must be willing to accept low returns. There are other kinds of investments that are riskier, meaning that it is possible to lose all or part of your principal. These investments, including stocks and bonds, give a reasonable expectation of higher returns to attract investors. So about stocks, investors purchase stocks or shares of ownership in a company. For example, if a company has issued a total of 1 million shares and an investor owns 20,000 of these shares, that investor owns 2% of the company. An investor who owns some percentage of the company is called a shareholder. Buying or selling stocks is referred to as trading. Stocks are traded on a stock exchange. There are two ways to make money by investing in stock. You sell shares for more money than you paid for them, in which you have a capital gain on the sale of the stock. And while you own the stock, the company distributes all or part of its profits to stakeholders as dividends. Daily newspapers and online services list current stock prices and other information about stocks in stock tables with the following information. We have a 52-week high, which refers to the highest price at which a company traded during the past 52 weeks. 52 low refers to the lowest price at which a company traded during the past 52 weeks. The stock refers to the company name. SYM refers to the symbol the company uses for trading. Div refers to the dividends paid per share to stockholders last year. Yield percent stands for percent yield. Vol 100s stands for the sales volume in hundreds. High stands for the highest price at which the company's stock traded yesterday. Low stands for the lowest price at which the company's stock traded yesterday. Close stands for the price at which shares traded when the stock exchange closed yesterday. Net change stands for the net change from 2 days ago to yesterday's market close. If you see ... it indicates that there was no change in price. And PE stands for price to earnings ratio. And so that can be found using the yesterday's closing price per share over the annual earnings per share. So for example number 5, we're going to read the stock table for Disney. What were the high and low prices for the past 52 weeks? Well, the 52-week high was $42.38, and the 52-week low was $22.50. If you owned 3,000 shares of Disney stock last year, what dividend did you receive? So we're going to take our 3,000 Disney shares and we're going to multiply it by the DIV or the dividend, which is 0.21. And that gives me $630. What is the annual return for dividends alone? How does this compare to a bank account offering a 3.5% interest rate? So looking at the yield percent, we have 0.6%, which is less than the 3.5% bank account interest rate. How many shares of Disney were traded yesterday? So we take our vol 100s, which was 115,900, and we're going to multiply by 100, which gives me 11,590,000 shares were traded yesterday. What were the high and low prices for Disney shares yesterday? So looking at the high, it was $32.50, and the low was $31.25. What was the price at which Disney shares last traded when the stock exchange closed yesterday? So looking at the close price, it was $32.50. What does the value or symbol in the net change column mean? So because the net change had a bunch of dots in it, that just means that 2 days ago, the closing price was also $32.50. And to compute Disney's annual earning per share, we have yesterday's closing price per share, which was our $32.50, divided by the PE ratio, which the PE was 43. And so we end up with 76 cents. Let's talk about another method of investment, and that's bonds. In order to raise money and dilute the ownership of current stockholders, companies sell bonds. People who buy a bond are lending money to the company from which they buy the bond. Bonds are a commitment from a company to pay the price an investor pays for the bond at the time it was purchased, called the face value, along with the interest payments at a given rate. A listing of all the investments that a person holds is called a financial portfolio. Most financial advisors recommend a portfolio with a mixture of low-risk and high-risk investments called a diversified portfolio. Let's talk about retirement savings, stashing cash, and making taxes less taxing. You can use regular savings and investment accounts to save for retirement. There are also a variety of accounts designed specifically for retirement savings. A traditional individual retirement account, or an IRA, is a savings plan that allows you to set aside money for retirement up to $5,500 per year for people under 50 and $6,500 per year for people 50 or older. You do not pay taxes on the money you deposit into the IRA. You can state withdrawing from your IRA when you can start withdrawing from your IRA when you are 59.5 years old. The withdrawals are taxed. So the money you put in does not get taxed, but when you withdraw it, it does get taxed. A Roth IRA is a type of IRA with slightly different tax benefits. You pay taxes on the money that you deposit, but then you can withdraw your earnings tax-free when you are 59.5 years old. Although your contributions are not tax deductible, your earnings are never taxed even after withdrawal. And then an employee-sponsored retirement plan, including 401k and 403b plans, are set up by the employer, who often makes some contribution to the plan on your behalf. These plans are not offered by all employers and are used to attract high-quality employees. All accounts designed specifically for retirement savings have penalties for withdrawals before the age of 59.5. So let's go ahead and look at example number 6. Suppose that between the ages of 25 and 35, you contribute $4,000 per year to a 401k, and your employer matches this contribution dollar for dollar on your behalf. The interest rate is 8.5% compounded annually. What is the value of the 401k at the end of the 10 years? So our P is going to be $8,000 because you contribute 4 and so does your employer. My rate is 8.5%. My N is 1 because it's compounded annually, and my T is 10. So we can use the formula A equals P times 1 plus R raised to the T minus 1 all over R, since our N is 1. So we have 8,000 times 1 plus 0.085 raised to the 10 minus 1 all over 0.085. And then using an order of operations, we get that A is $118,681. After 10 years of working for this firm, you move on to a new job. However, you keep your accumulated retirement funds in the 401k. How much money will you have in the plan when you reach age 65? Now you're not contributing any money to the account. You're just leaving the money you already have, the $118,681 in the account, and letting it accrue interest on its own. So this time, my P is the $118,681. My rate is still the 8.5%. My N is still 1, and my T this time is going to be 30 because this is from age 35 to 65. And so the formula I'm going to use this time is A equals P times 1 plus R raised to the T. So this is 118,681 times 1 plus 0.085 raised to the 30th. And so using order of operations, you're going to get $1,371,745. What is the difference between the amount of money you will have accumulated in the 401k at age 65 and the amount you contributed to the plan? So using the amount that we had total, our $1,371,745, we need to see how much money I actually contributed. So we were at this company for 10 years, from age 25 to 35. For those 10 years, I contributed $4,000 per year. So we end up getting $1,371,745 minus $40,000, which means that just from my employer contribution and from interest, I ended up getting an additional $1,331,745 compared to the $40,000 I contributed by myself.